Hello, everyone, and welcome to the RealClearPolitics Takeaway for Thursday, March 11th. I'm Tom Bevan, co-founder and president of RCP.
I'm Carl Cannon, Washington Bureau Chief. Morning, Tom.
Good morning, Carl. Are you hotly anticipating Joe Biden's primetime speech tonight?
Well, before I get into that, I'm hotly anticipating the weather turning warm. It's going to be 79 here today. We haven't had a nice day since, and forever. It's going to be great. Everybody will be outside. Some will be wearing masks, some won't, but everybody will be enjoying soaking up the vitamin D that they need.
We had about a 65-degree day here the other day, and I was walking. Everybody was out walking their dogs, and I was walking down the street with my wife, and we looked across the street, and there were three girls that were probably 8 or 9 years old, 10 years old, riding scooters in a parking lot, and you could hear one of them as she pushed her scooter along say, almost like Ted Cruz, freedom! And we laughed. And I mean, it feels good. It feels good to see people out. There's a sense of optimism in the air. I suspect Joe Biden's going to touch on that tonight, as well as, from what we read, Carl, offering some cautious notes as well.
I think the president plans to look back and remind Americans what we've all been through. The death toll is now, more than 500,000 deaths a week ago, climbing 530,000 lives lost, 2 million more around the world. I mean, he's going to look back on that and then remind, what was good? Well, we got a vaccine, and he's going to talk about, we assume, where we go from here. And I think what he's going to do is try and walk this line between being happy for what we have and optimistic, but warning Americans not to go crazy just yet, that we're almost through it. That's my guess.
There are also reports, Joe Biden's getting ready to sign the $1.9 trillion package, which passed the House yesterday, and that he's preparing for his victory lap to sell this to the American people and moving on to the next legislative priority. But, Carl, there's a lot in this bill, and some of it has to do with immediate COVID relief, right? There will be checks that go out to individuals, but there's a lot in this bill that is being hailed as, I think Jen Psaki said yesterday, the most progressive bill in the history of the country. It's got, tens, hundreds of billions of dollars for things that are not related to COVID or that are not going to be, kicking in immediately. But this has to be seen as a political win for Biden. Certainly the public seems to support it. So is this a big notch in his belt?
Well, it's Rahm Emanuel's famous construction, don't let a crisis go to waste, on steroids cubed times 10. So, $1.9 trillion. I think what most Americans are going to think, and I don't know for sure, they're not going to think, hey, we're probably mortgaging our future to the Chinese and the bond markets and bankrupting our grandchildren. I don't think they're going to think that. They're going to think, I need this money. I need it to eat. I need it to fix my car. I need it to do all these things I've been able to do, look for a job. So I think most Americans are going to be happy with the package. They're not going to look at it. And in terms of Joe Biden taking a victory lap, I used to think that kind of thing was unseemly. But after we've been through for 4 years, when our president bragged not only about being a very stable genius, but a year ago, March, saying, "Yeah, this science, it comes so easy to me. These doctors, they're amazed at what I know." The bar has been lowered for what constitutes unpresidential preening, and so I think Biden's probably in safe territory there. But
dancing in the end zone and spiking the ball. I want to switch gears though, Carl. I'm gonna. We didn't talk about this ahead of time, but I want to get your thoughts on your guy out in California, Gavin Newsom. Recall Gavin Newsom. They have over 2 million signatures now. They only need 1.5 million, and the 2 million was sort of seen as a real threshold point because some of those signatures are going to be declared invalid. Gavin Newsom also gave a State of the State address earlier this week, Carl, where he basically said, we're never going to return to normal. And that, what this pandemic has exposed in terms of equity issues and the like, we're not, this is the new normal. And that was panned by some folks as being sort of a tone-deaf message to the people of California, especially as he's sitting there on the verge of being put into a recall race. You like Gavin Newsom. You've touted him as presidential timber at one point. What do you
Tom,
think?
If I had my way, he'd be president now. So would they be impeaching him instead of recalling him? What's he done wrong?
What's he done wrong?
Yeah, what's he done wrong?
Well, other than, lock down the state of California and, while he's going to dinner at the French Laundry and sending his kids to private school. Other than that, he's doing a bang-up job, Carl. Clearly, there's some dissatisfaction with his handling of the pandemic in California. I just wonder, whether he's actually in danger of losing that election, or is even with all the discontent that's out there, that the Republican Party just is not in the shape that it needs to be in to prevail, no matter who it puts up against him.
Well, that's interesting, because California's become in some ways a one-party state. That I don't think that's good for Californians. I don't think it's good for the country. But the Republicans don't really have anyone of Gavin Newsom's stature or that can beat him. And Gavin Newsom's job approval ratings, until this recall, got going, were pretty high, very high, actually. So there's not a Republican that can beat him. But what this will be a test. That phrase, laboratories of democracy, we're about to find another, the states being laboratories of democracy, we're about to see another one. Are Americans just so generally pissed off now that they'll just vote a guy out of office because they have a chance to and worry about what comes next later? I don't think so. I think he'll weather it, but who knows? This mood among the electorate's like nothing I've ever seen. And I don't know who better Californians think they could get to be governor. But it's this two-tiered process. You get to just vote no on the governor. So I don't want to predict what happened. Last time there was a recall, Gray Davis was recalled and Arnold Schwarzenegger was installed in his place. The Republicans on the ticket, and I didn't count Arnold as a Republican, although that's how he was listed, they didn't get any traction. The Democrat, Cruz Bustamante, who was the lieutenant governor, got about a third of the vote. And Arnold was installed. Now, if Oprah Winfrey or Tom Hanks put their hat
don't
in the
forget,
ring,
Ariana Huffington got, I think, 2% of the vote in that recall.
Yeah, Ariana. So, but I mean, if some person like that, we had a column, somebody mentioned Tom Steyer. Does he want to go there? If you had he's not quite what I'm talking about, but if you had a celebrity there who gave people a choice, I don't know what would happen.
I would say this, though.
Gavin
I got
Newsom,
2 words for you, Carl.
Yeah.
Dean Cain.
Well, Dean Cain, you played college football with Dean, and he's a friend of yours.
Full disclosure, he's a friend.
Well, and I was Gavin Newsom's dad was a good friend of mine, so I guess if Dean Cain and Gavin end up running against each other, you and I have to have a bet on it.
All right, we'll do that. We'll figure out what that bet will be off the air.
All right, then. All right, let's leave it there because we have our viewers guessing. But please join us tomorrow for the Real Clear Politics Takeaway. On Fridays, we do a audio version, and it's longer. But for now, I'm Carl Cannon, Washington Bureau Chief of Real Clear Politics.
And I'm Tom Bevan, co-founder and president of RCP. And this has been the RCP Takeaway for Thursday, March 11th.